Good morning, zoners. Welcome back to the channel. A little bit late this morning, apologies for that. Had a bit of a late night last night. Ended up watching a classic movie, Witchfinder General. Didn't start watching it until sort of quarter to 12 o'clock. Didn't finish it until, must have been 1:30, 1:45. So didn't get to sleep until 2 o'clock. So overslept a little bit this morning. So sincere apologies for that and for the lateness of the video. Before I go any further, I'd like to say a great big welcome. I've already done this on the group, but I always like to sort of welcome people personally. Welcome to the group to Gareth, who runs a brilliant channel, a YouTube channel called Video Tasties, which you should all pop over and check out. I'll try and remember to put a link underneath the description. If I don't, just go onto YouTube and search for Video Tasties and you'll find him. You'll enjoy his content. You're going to enjoy the group, mate. You're already enjoying it. It's great to see you posting. It's been a busy week on the group. It seems to get busier every week and I couldn't be more pleased with it. It kind of runs itself now. I've not been taking part in the Forgotten Movies thing for the last few days, so I'll try and do my sort of usual catch up a little bit later on. But I've picked up on a few other bits this week that I'll probably talk about very shortly. But yeah, it's been a good week. Last week's video, I was talking about how the viewing figures had dropped to something like 41. They've shot up again last week to, I think it was 67 when I looked this morning. So, as I say, it's not the kind of thing that really bothers me. But it's nice to get higher viewing figures, I suppose. So it is going back up again, and I think somebody mentioned that it probably would. Right, a few comments on last week's video. I've got my notes here. Let's see. There was a little bit of a thing on elevated horror. I think you pretty much all know my views on it, but I'll come to that in a minute. Gareth, you said elevated horror is just a fancy name for shit. Couldn't agree with you more, especially last week. Rick, old AF, great vid, Tony, thanks mate. I wouldn't worry about the views, mine are way down at the moment, so I'm sure it will swing back around soon. I've got to agree with you on the arty-farty horror. Not for me. That's why The Lights of the Conjuring did so well. It was stripped back to the haunted house films of yesteryear and didn't try to add any stupid twists and turns. That pretty much sums it up. I think I started talking about elevated horror on the back of watching The Strays on Netflix, and yet again coming to the end of the movie and not having a clue what the hell had happened. It just does me head in. I do read sort of interviews with directors and this, that and the other, saying that we're treating the audience as intelligent. We want them to make their own minds up about what they're watching. No, I don't want to make my own mind up. I want you to tell me what the story is and how the hell it finishes. I don't want to sit there scratching my noggin at the end of it thinking, hey, what? So yeah, with you completely on that. Callie, you sent me a message to do with Transformers. I was saying last week that I really enjoyed the Transformers. Is it the Benverse? Is it the Benverse? What do they call it? The what's his name? Bayverse. Benverse. Don't know where that's come from. But you said, yeah, the best place to start with Transformers films is with the 1986 Transformers, the movie. That way you can compare the cartoon to the live action and see why it disappointed the fans so much. I had a feeling it was going to go back to that. As I said last week, a lot of these 80s cartoon series, superhero series, I kind of missed out on because I was working at that time. So I'd not seen Transformers or X-Men or Masters of the Universe or anything like that. So it's great to start catching up with them. I've started watching X-Men. I will be starting on Transformers now that I've found it on YouTube, soon as you pointed me in the right direction. So yeah, thanks for that. Chris, The Western Thread, gunfight at the OK Corral, starring Kirk Douglas. How could I say no to that one? It's actually on iPlayer at the moment, so I'm going to be checking that one out very soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing what today's offering is. I do love a good western. I don't watch very many, which is strange being a Clint Eastwood fan. Probably the best one that I have actually seen is The Magnificent Seven. That's the one that I've probably seen more than any other. But I do like some of the Clint Eastwood westerns, even though I still yet to catch up with the Dollars trilogy. I need to dig that one out. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what today's is. A quick shout out to Scott. Well done, 200 subscribers, mate. Well done. I don't know what mine's at now. I think it's 104. So I'm sort of halfway to what you've achieved. But well done, mate. That's brilliant news. You're doing a Q&A and you've asked for questions. I've got two for you. First one is, have you ever watched a movie that you found so disturbing that you had to turn it off? My answer to that for myself would be Michael Haneke's Funny Games. Funny Games was not funny at all. I did just about manage to get it through to the end, and I would never ever watch it again. It was pretty nasty stuff. And the second question would be, is there any movie that you absolutely will not watch entirely due to its reputation or what you've heard about it? My answer to that one, and I think I've said this one before, Human Centipede. I absolutely do not see the point of it. It sounds an absolutely revolting concept. I know what it's about, so before I get a challenge Tony through to sit and watch Human Centipede, no, that's not going to happen. Definitely not. Not in a million years. I don't think I'd get past the surgery scenes, let alone the result of the surgery. So those are my two questions for you, Scott, for your Q&A. Any movie that you've watched and you had to turn off because you found it so disturbing, and any movie that you will not watch due to its reputation. So once again, well done on 200 subscribers. That's great news. Jason, the Ginger Ninja, loved the Final Destination reviews. As for the laser eye surgery, I'm with you on that. Absolutely no bloody way would I ever have laser eye surgery after watching that scene. It was horrible. I don't like anything to do with eyes anyway. I've got a real problem with anything to do with eyes being taken out or things being poked in them. That is absolutely no. So yeah, I'm totally with you on the laser eye surgery kill on that one. Looking forward to the latest installment whenever it comes out. I think it's in a few months, isn't it? But I will take a look at it. I've seen all of the others. They're very clever, very, very clever. I do find some of the kills a little difficult to watch. The eye surgery for one. I don't remember which movie it was in, but the one with the two girls in the suntan beds, I thought that was pretty horrible as well. They're supposed to be horrible. The nail gun, that was another one. That was a memorable one. So it's a few years now since we've had one, so the special effects are going to be amazing, as they were in the first lot. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. What else have I got here? Just bear with me. Jason, oh my God, Jason, I've got a right old list for you here. The 2 video setup. I remember it well when we used to copy VHS tapes. I don't think it cost that much, if I remember right, when we used to do it, because I think if VHS players had cost as much as they did when they first came out, we wouldn't have been able to afford to buy 2. We were lucky to be able to afford to buy 1. But yes, I did have a 2 video setup. I even had a mate down the road who had another setup, so I used to sort of he had 2 videos as well. So I used to copy one and take one to him, and he'd do the other one, and then we'd swap. So yeah, I do remember that. What else have I got? Just bear with me. All the Shane Meadows movies. I can't believe I've never seen any of them. I have seen Dead Man's Shoes, which I found really disturbing. The sequence with the suitcase, without going into too much detail, was just horrible. but a cracking movie. Paddy Considine was as sinister as hell in that. So yes, I have seen one Shane Meadows, but all these other ones, Once Upon a Time in the Midlands and all that, I've heard of them, distant memory, but I've never seen them. So I will be digging those out at some point and taking a look at those. Just bear with me. Oh, your Sunday afternoon matinees. Loved last week's. I have seen both of them. Born Free and All Creatures Great and Small. I seem to remember going to see All Creatures Great and Small at the cinema. I think it was Burton Odeon, so it would have been about 1976 when it came out. I think it was on a double bill with another movie, but I can't remember what it was. But I have seen those. As for today's, oh God, here we go again. Get ready for the hail of abuse coming my way. I haven't seen today's. Call yourself a Clint Eastwood fan? Yes, I do call myself a Clint Eastwood fan, but I've not seen Any Which Way You Can or Every Which Way But Loose. I have got them. I've got them both on Blu-ray, so I will be digging them out. I say this a lot, don't I? I will be digging them out and taking a look at them, but no, I haven't seen them yet. But it's a cracking double bill. And talking of double bill, or double bills, the one you did last Sunday night, Scum and Scrubbers. Wow, that's a grim twosome. Bloody hell. I've only seen Scrubbers probably once or twice. It didn't have the same blistering impact that Scum had on me when I first saw that, but it's still pretty nasty stuff. Scum, on the other hand, what can you say? One of the most powerful British movies of the 70s. Had real censorship issues, if I remember right. It was just horrible. I remember it being on a double bill with Quadrophenia, and I did go to see both of those. I did prefer Quadrophenia, but Scum left a real imprint. I still enjoy watching it now, and I still find it as nasty as it was back then. I don't think the violence has aged at all. I think it's still quite powerful stuff. If they were ever to decide to remake that movie, heaven knows what it would look like now. I don't even want to think about that one. Let me get. Oh, the Sweeney. Yeah, I mean, you know the issues that I've got with this one, because I think I've mentioned it before. I did see an interview with, I think it was Parkinson. He had Ray Winstone on, and he said to Ray Winstone, you've got a new movie coming out. Why don't you tell the audience who you're going to be playing? And Winston says Jack Regan, and the audience went wild, and I did, and I thought, bloody hell, they're actually going to make a movie of the Sweeney. Now, I had an image of my head in what it was going to look like. For some reason, I got it into my head it was going to be a 70s throwback, like a movie version of the series. Couldn't have been more wrong. I watched it. It was a crushing disappointment, but the biggest disappointment for me, as you probably know, is the casting of George Carter. They cast a young man called Ben Drew, who I'd seen previously in Harry Brown. And as soon as I heard about it, I thought, he can't play George Carter, he's too young. And I watched it, and it absolutely did not work for me. And I don't know why, because a lot of people over the years, even though it got terrible reviews when it came out, it's grown on people in the 10 years, 11 years since it was released. And I'm really curious to know if it'll work on me when I watch it again, and I do intend to watch it again. You got me quite fired up about it when you were listing those similarities between the Sweeney and Scum, due to Ray Winstone, certain lines and certain things that happen in it. I'm going to have a little list of those by the side of me when I watch it this time, and I'm going to give it another go, and I'm going to try to put the original series out of my mind completely, because I'm fairly sure that when I watched it for the first time, I'm fairly certain I had the original television series in my head at the time and thought, this is nothing like it, this is not what I wanted, I hate it. That was it. But yes, I will be giving it another go. That's for sure. Oh, thanks very much for the photographs of me in Saturday Night Fever, by the way, you swine. For those of you that don't know or missed it, he's gone and stuck my head on John Travolta, and if that wasn't bad enough, he followed that up by sticking my head on the bird in the red dress he was dancing with. So, if you want to go back through the posts of this week, I think it was about 3 days ago. It was because Forgotten Movies that particular day was John Travolta, and I put the poster for Saturday Night Fever on, going, only kidding, I know this isn't forgotten, but you knew I was going to do that, and it kind of kicked off this thing. What was the movie I picked? The Devil's Rain. That was it. That was one of his very first movies, Ernest Borgnine, which was like a much cheaper version, an American version of The Devil Rides Out, very, very similar to that. And I will be taking that one in very soon because I haven't seen it for many, many years, but I do remember that film. But yeah, thanks for that, Jason, you swine. Now then, a little bit of a tantrum. I read this week, do you remember a few weeks ago they were going to censor Roald Dahl's books, which have been around for decades. They've been essential reading for children for decades. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, all that sort of thing. Apparently that decision has now been reversed, and they've turned their attention to Ian Fleming and the Bond books. They are, and I hope they don't do this, they're going to trim them and cut certain words out that do not suit modern sensibilities. Whose modern sensibilities are we talking about here again? I am getting absolutely sick and tired of people that I don't even know who they are, who decide what is suitable for me to watch or read or listen to. I've had a few comments on it. Jason says, doesn't bother me what they do with the books as I don't read books. You selfish sod. I do get your point though. Gareth, you said ridiculous. I started collecting the old novels to protect them. I got to admit, I was on eBay this week looking at the price of some of the original novels, and I will be investing in them. A lot of them are quite rare as well. A lot of them are sort of first edition prints from like 1968-69. There's a novelisation of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I definitely wouldn't mind. And a first edition of that is only about £4. My question is, what are they going to do with the audiobooks? I mostly listen to books nowadays. I've got Audible on my phone. I listen to audiobooks on my coffee break, tea break at work. I listen to them while I'm cleaning the house, all that sort of thing. So what are they going to do with those? Are they going to withdraw those titles and record them all over again? The whole thing is getting out of hand. These woke fucking idiots really do need to sod off and leave us all alone. Truly, we are really getting bored with it now. It makes you wonder what's next, but that's the latest one that I've heard. It's the Bond books. And I did mention quite a while ago that if you got a Bond DVD or Blu-ray box set from anywhere between sort of 5-6 years ago, before that, hold on to them for Christ's sakes, because I've already heard a while ago that they were recording all the Bond films. They were going to trim certain words, certain things out of them for the same reason that they're going to do it to the books. So all your old Bond DVDs, box sets, books, hold on to them, because you won't recognise them in a few years by the sounds of it. Let's see, Gareth put a post on this week about a Total Recall watch party. What exactly is a watch party? I keep seeing these all over Facebook and Instagram. I don't even know what a watch party is. Is it where you all sort of get together online and watch it and comment on it while you're watching it? I don't know. Answer that one for me. I read this week that Fatal Attraction has been made into a series. What is that going to look like? I love the original movie. I've seen it quite a few times. It's going to be streaming on Paramount Plus, I think, in April. I really, really do want to have a look at this. I'm a big fan of the original movie. I'm not going to have that in mind when I watch it, like I did with the Sweeney. But it sounds intriguing. I'm really, really curious to know what it's going to look like. Obviously, it's not going to be Michael Douglas or who was the other one, Glenn Close. Um, but it looks like it's going to be good. So I will be taking a look at that. Now then, I watched one yesterday. I've set myself a challenge to watch. Um, Let me get this right. All of the Best Picture contenders for the Oscars this year. I've got just over a week to get through them. I've already watched yesterday Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that's pretty much how my head was by the time I finished it. Visually, it is brilliant. It is gorgeous to look at. Michelle Yeoh is absolutely superb. I can't remember his name, but the actor who was a kid who played Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was in it. And do you know what? He's not changed that much. He was in the Goonies as well. It made absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. I thought I was getting the hang of it. About 20 minutes in, I thought, yeah, I think I understand that. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing just went nuts. I mean, you've got rocks talking to each other. You've got you've got something that I'll come back to that. I can't even say it. But it is just the strangest movie. It's a multiverse thing. I dread to think if anybody ever actually asked me to describe the movie to them or to properly review it, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't know where to start. But it was good. I enjoyed watching it. I just didn't understand it. What it left me with was a need to see more Michelle Yeoh films, because she was superb. Jamie Lee Curtis was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I was really pleased with her portrayal of the IRS agent. She was superb in that. But Michelle Yeoh, I saw her recently in Police Story 3, Super Cop. I think that's one you'd be a fan of, Gareth, because you love your sort of 70s, 80s martial arts. I've noticed a lot of the posts on the group this week have been sort of retro sort of movies to do with martial arts and stuff like that. You're going to fit in so well with this lot, I'll tell you. But yeah, I want to see more of Michelle Yeoh. The one I really want to see is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So I'm going to try and grab hold of a copy of that one. But are there any more Michelle Yeoh movies that I need to check out? Drop your answers in the comments or message me or whatever. So yeah, that's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Brilliant but confusing, to put it mildly. Let me see now. I had a conversation. Let me get this right. I'm walking past the clock in on off machine this week at work, and as I walked past, I heard somebody say, Tone, I watched Straw Dogs. Oh right, turn round. Dave. What do you reckon? Absolute rubbish. Complete nutter crap. He did not enjoy Straw Dogs one little bit. He just said it was tame. I think that's what he was getting at. It was not the controversial movie that he expected it to be. He'd listened, as I had, to Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery's Video Archives podcast. They did an episode completely devoted to Straw Dogs. And I got to admit, they were so enthusiastic about the movie. Dave obviously picked up on that and thought, yeah, I've got to watch this, and watched it, and it was a crushing disappointment to him. He did say, let me get this right, he preferred, talking of that kind of a movie, controversial movies, he'd seen Last House on the Left, and also another one, I can't remember what he said, but he did say that he preferred the remakes over that. The remake of Last House on the Left was a lot glossier, Uh, Obviously, better special effects, better acted, all that sort of thing. Um, so I think I know what the problem is with this. Straw Dogs, when it came out, 1971, I started Big School in 1973. Now, Straw Dogs at the time was literally the stuff of legend. Nobody at the school had seen it apart from one lad who got in to the cinema. I think he knew somebody there who managed to get him in, but said you're going to have to sit right at the back and in the corner, and for Christ's sakes, keep quiet. Um, and he came out of that basically saying that it completely changed him. He'd never seen anything like it. And I think there lies the problem. The movie is 50 years old. Um, so what you're going to get with a 50-year-old movie is 50-year-old attitudes that go with it. I saw it for the first time, I think, in the early 80s, and I thought it was fairly shocking stuff, as a lot of people still do. But younger eyes are watching it now and basically saying, like they did with The Exorcist, it hasn't got the punch that they thought it was going to have. And it hasn't now to those people. But to me and people of my generation, it is still a very powerful, nasty little movie, but a brilliant piece of work. You just can't fault it. Um, but it's a time thing. It's a generational thing. I'm sure it is. I remember my granddad telling me how he used to go to, I think it was the Gaumont, which was way before the Odeon, and he used to watch movies like Dracula, 1931, the Frankenstein movie, the Universal horror movies. And he said at the time they were terrifying stuff. They were really scary. Um, but now, obviously, you could screen something like Dracula or The Creature from the Black Lagoon pretty much on kids' TV, and it wouldn't even make a dent. But back then, they were frightening, and I think this is what it is with Straw Dogs. You had to be around in the early 70s to understand just how nasty this film was. Not just that one. 1971 was a major year for what I would call problem movies, movies that had real issues with the censors. You got Clockwork Orange, you got Straw Dogs, you got Last Tango in Paris. Um, Obviously, Ken Russell's The Devils. These were all really, really troublesome movies that basically gave the censors a major headache. Um, but now, as I say, I still watch The Devils and I'm severely disturbed by it. I need to watch it again to see whether it holds up. Last Tango in Paris, I loved it. What was the other one? There was another one. Can't remember. Clockwork Orange. I think I love it. I absolutely love it. I can't fault it. The soundtrack is brilliant. Kubrick's direction is brilliant. Malcolm McDowell is superb as Alex. Can't fault Clockwork Orange at all. But again, they were products of their time, and that pretty much explains it. And that's why Dave would prefer to watch, I think, the 2011 remake of Straw Dogs, which I watched and thought it's not bad. It's not quite what the original was. All they've really done is transferred Cornwall to the Deep South in America, but the story is essentially the same, as is pretty much everything else with it. But yeah, that was an interesting conversation. I'm going to watch Straw Dogs again. Um, in the very sort of sorry, in the very short future, I will be watching it again. So, right, I'm going to take a break for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to come back because we're coming up to 30 minutes, and I'm just going to very quickly rattle through a new season of movies that I am working on at the moment. That I can talk about for you. So I'm going to pause this for just a moment and I will be back in literally just a second. And we're back. First time I've run over in quite a while. I must be prattling too much again. Um, what I was talking about is a new season of films that I'm setting up for myself. And I got the idea basically while talking to Dave about Straw Dogs. I thought it might be time to revisit some of the controversial movies over the years that have caused problems with the British censors and the American censors. I do love a bit of controversy, so I thought it might be a good time to revisit some of these titles. Just give you an idea of what I'm going to be looking at. Let's see. First one, for obvious reasons, has got to be Straw Dogs. I don't think any movie in the history of British films has caused the problems that this one did. I mean, I'll look into the history of it and all the problems it had. And when I've actually watched it, I'll give you a proper little chat on it and tell you what caused all the problems. But I think everybody pretty much knows which scene caused the issues with this one. I'll also be reading this, which is the original novel upon which the film is based, by Gordon Williams. This is a typical 70s cover. I'm not sure you could put something like this on the cover now. The famous novel of violence and rape. It's a real selling point, isn't it? But I heard that the author of this, Gordon Williams, basically disassociated himself completely from the movie while it was being made, basically because there was way too much mayhem going on. So even he didn't like what they'd done with it. So that's one that I'm going to be looking at. Another one obviously has to be A Clockwork Orange, mainly because it came out in 1971, and as I said before, 1971 was an amazing year for violent, sexually explicit movies coming out. The landscape of movie making, as in films, was changing. Films were becoming a lot more controversial, and 1971 was a real turning point. So that's another one that I'm going to be looking at. I'm also going to be looking at The Devils, which I have got a copy of upstairs, but I forgot to bring down. So I will be going on that one. Right, next one. Class of 1984. I remember this came out in 1982, and this was an amazingly violent movie. I had real trouble watching certain scenes in this. It was directed by Mark L. Lester, who I always thought was the Mark Lester, as in Oliver and Eyewitness, and what was the other one he did, the famous one? Melody. I thought it was him, but it's not. This is American geezer. But this caused problems with the British censors when it came out. There were certain scenes that were cut. There were certain scenes that were trimmed right back. And watching it now, I think this is complete and uncut as you could possibly get. So I will be talking about that one. Next one. This is a legendary movie as far as the British censors goes. Caligula. If you haven't seen this, all I can really tell you of is it's got the most amazing cast. You've got Malcolm McDowell as Caligula. You've also got Helen Mirren, Peter O'Toole, John Gielgud. There are so many stars in this. It was directed by Bob Guccione, who was head of the was it Penthouse Empire? Can't remember. It was he was head of one of the girly mags empire anyway. I'm sure it was Penthouse, and he directed this. So there is a lot of sexually explicit material in this, oodles of violence, the kind of which we'd not seen for quite a while. This is a long movie. This is, I believe, 2.5 or 2 hours and 40 minutes long. This was cut unbelievably by the censors. They managed to trim over an hour out of this for one of the releases. I don't know whether it was the VHS release or it was a subsequent sort of cinema release, but they managed to trim over an hour off it, to the point where it really didn't make that much sense. But this, as far as I know, is a complete and uncut version, so I'm definitely going to be taking a look at that one. Next one, Dressed to Kill. This to me is Brian De Palma's masterpiece. I know people will say that's Carrie, but to me, Dressed to Kill is the one. Stars Michael Caine, Angie Dickinson, Nancy Allen. It is just a stylish, classy murder mystery. It had an infamous scene in a lift with Angie Dickinson basically being slashed to ribbons with a straight razor by a blonde woman with sunglasses on. It was elevated to the next level for me by the score, which is by an Italian composer, Pino Donaggio. Absolutely love the music in this. The score is superb. The movie itself has a very glossy feel to it. I absolutely love this, but it did cause issues when it came over, mostly due to the elevator scene, but I'll go into that when I've actually watched it again. Now this one, Soldier Blue, came out in 1970. The first time I saw this, I was genuinely shocked. I'd heard all about, its reputation came over way ahead of it. What this basically is, it stars Candice Bergen, Peter Strauss and Donald Pleasence. For the first hour and 40 minutes-ish, this is a fairly standard Western. A little bit violent, but nothing too bad. The last 20 minutes, basically it turns into one of the most savage Westerns I have ever seen in my life. Now, I've not seen The Wild Bunch, so that's another one that I need to get hold of, especially for this season, because that caused problems with the censors. But this one caused an unbelievable amount of trouble with the censors. It's all to do with an attack on an Indian village. The cut that I've got of this is 118 minutes. There's a cut out there of 113 minutes with 5 minutes taken out of it. The original cut, I believe, was about 2 hours and 10 minutes, but when it was screened, originally screened before the movie premiered, most of the cinema walked out because the violence was just too much for them. I don't know whether that footage that was trimmed out still exists. I would kind of hope so, because I would love to see what they cut out of it, because the movie itself as it is now at 118 minutes is nasty stuff, so heaven knows what it must have been like at 2 hours and 10 minutes. And back in 1970 this was pushing some major buttons, so that's one I need to watch again. Next one, Last House on the Left. I've seen this a couple of times before. I can't say I was over impressed with it. It looks like a cheaply made exploitation movie. Now, this was one of Wes Craven's very early films. Whether I'll have a better appreciation of it now, after I've not seen this for probably a couple of decades, but I saw this Blu-ray and it's got quite a few good extras on it, so I thought I'll grab that. I just remember it being, it just looked like a cheap exploitation movie to me. This is obviously one of these that got caught up in the video nasties thing in the 80s. It was banned for quite a while. I believe it was released in a cut version. This, I understand, is uncut. Let me just have a look at the back. They class it as unrated, but this has had a lot of the nastier footage put back in again. So I will take a look at this and see whether my opinion of it changes. I know Dave didn't like this. He preferred the remake. I get the feeling I'm probably going to agree with him on that, but we'll see how I go with that one. Next one, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can't have a banned season without the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this was obviously Tobe Hooper's directorial debut. He also created that scare fest that was Salem's Lot in the 1970s, about 1977 I think it was, starring David Salt, which was an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, which was terrifying stuff. It really was. It was one of the most frightening TV programs I think I'd ever seen. The BBC screened it about 9:30, which that's a slot that they usually used to save for the really nasty sort of stuff that everybody stayed up for. But this, again, caused major problems with the sensors. I haven't seen it for quite a while. I do remember watching it the first time and not really liking it that much. I also thought at the time, where's all the violence? Have they cut it all out? But they haven't cut it all out. But I'll come back to that one. Next one, we know this one, Scum. Now, whether this had problems with the sensors or not, I don't know. I need to look into that one. But I do know this had an impact on me when I first saw it. I was, again, genuinely shocked. I'm so easily shocked nowadays. And I was back then as well. I'm a bit of a wuss, I'm afraid. But the violence in this, it hasn't deadened over the last, I think this came out about 1979. So you're talking about a movie that's well over 40 years old, maybe 43, 44 years old. So to me, to watch this now, it is still as powerful as it was back then, but I need to have a look at what its history with the sensors was, because I get the feeling that certain bits would have been trimmed out of this. I know the BBC banned the original TV play upon which this was based. It is now sort of readily available, obviously, but back then it caused such a stir, as did that. And the final one that I'm going to be looking at, and this isn't an exhaustive list. There are many more that I need to take a look at, but Taxi Driver, if I had to name what I consider to be Martin Scorsese's masterpiece, I would probably say this one, because this is the one that I think I've seen more than any other. Obviously you've got Robert De Niro as Travis Bickle, Jodie Foster in a very early role, Harvey Keitel is in this. It's just a grim portrait of New York in the 1970s. If you were a taxi driver, it wasn't the best place to be. Again, the scene at the end, the final sort of 10 minutes, genuinely shocking. It was awful stuff back then, and it still looks powerful now. So that's another one that I'm looking forward to getting into. As I say, that's not a complete list. I'm going to be looking into this, which is a sort of a history of the BBFC, the movies that they've tangled with, what they've cut out of them, all that sort of thing. And there's all sorts in here. So I'm going to be going through this with a fine-tooth comb and finding other movies apart from these. These are all sort of fairly obvious ones. But there are a lot in there that I had to read through it the other night, or a quick flick through it. There's a couple of titles and I thought, I've never even heard of that. But they, titles that caused quite a stink when they came out. So I'm going to be working from that. Right, that's it for this week, folks. I think I've prattled on quite enough. 45 minutes, that's unusual. So again, as usual, thanks ever so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Also like, subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff. Again, thanks for joining me. I'll be back again next week with more of the same. Have a great week, and again, thank you very, very much for joining me. Take care, all of you. Ta-da.